All. My name is Vanessa Vallely and I'm CEO and founder of We Are Tech Women. I'll tell you a little bit more about We Are Tech Women, but the purpose of this call is to talk you through our Tech Women 100 awards and hopefully to give you some tips and tricks on how to cast an impactful nomination. And I'm coming at this both from a Tech Women 100 perspective, but also as the judge of multiple awards. So I'll give you a little bit of an insight as to what I look for when I'm reading nominations in the hope that it helps you. So I'm just going to share my screen, bring up my presentation. Hopefully you can all see this. Yeah, bear with me. Better if I started at the beginning. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about We Are Tech Women and Tech Women 100. We've been around for the best part of 8 years. We started as a website, and we still are a website, that provides women working in tech with resources that they need to propel their careers. So whether that's going on to the events calendar to find an event, whether that's going on to a directory of networks so that you can find a network in your local area, whether that's sharing inspirational stories of women working in the tech industry, whether that's news that is prevalent to you, keeping you abreast of new technologies, or pushing out details of campaigns that some of our partners are working on. So people like, for example, Co-First Girls or STEMettes or Next Tech Girls. So if they're doing anything, we push it out by the website in the hope that our community kind of comes together and helps. So we're made up of about 40,000 women. And during the course of the year, we do a number of things. Some of you may have seen One Tech World at the very beginning of the year. That is a free, loads of different sessions, loads of different stages, focusing on tech innovation, focusing on career development, diversity and inclusion. And then also we go around the world with some other sessions as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that next year. We just held our festival, which was amazing, where we brought together 250 women in the room and a few hundred online to talk actually about your career and what they can do to accelerate that. We then have Tech Women 100, which I'm going to run through in a second. Something else for your diaries to keep your eye out for. We are doing the first ever National Women in Tech Week. So this will be a whole week of activities starting on the 7th to the 11th of October to coincide with Ada Lovelace Day. And there'll be events that you can attend for free up and down the country. So some of them will be virtual, some of them will be in person. And what we're asking all of our clients and partners to do is to host an event at their premises for their women. So making our clients focus on their women in tech, but open that up by 10, 20, 30 spaces so that externals can attend. So do keep your eye out for Women in Tech Week. It's going to be absolutely incredible and the first of its kind. So you can register for interest on that via our website. So that's Women in Tech Week. And then we have Level Up, which happens at the end of the year, which is a more strategic conversation that we have with senior leaders around why are we not seeing the progression that we want to see with the numbers of women in tech and the number of female engineers. I recently read a report just a week ago saying that those numbers have gone down. So we need to do more. And part of a Tech Women 100 is shining a spotlight on incredible women working in the industry, allies, networks, and companies. So as I said earlier, we're now in our 7th year. So we have an alumni of around 750 incredible women, that some of which all talk on our WhatsApp groups. They support each other. I'll talk a little bit about what happens after the awards, because we're not just an awards body that wants to give you an award and then we disappear. It's about the support that we give you afterwards. And I think that's what makes us quite different. So basically, what are we looking for? We're looking for women in the middle. So it's really hard for some industries to say below director level because everyone's structured in a different way. But we're looking for those women that are perhaps not yet running huge teams, not running large P&Ls, don't have big global responsibilities. We're looking at those that are just kind of breaking into that space of becoming a little bit more senior, because that's where our problem is. Because if we grow that pipeline of talent there, we will have senior women going into the senior positions onto our boards and influencing the directions of our companies. So that's kind of our sweet spot, if you like. So if you're in that sweet spot, we're brilliant. If you're not sure, you can always drop us a note to info@wearethecity. So we focus solely on women below director level. I'm going to use that term just for now. And the whole point of it is to showcase women working in tech who are absolutely incredible in their roles, but they're also doing something outside of work, because we want you to be the role models of the future. We already know, looking at the stats, that not enough girls take STEM subjects at school. Even if they do, we get them into to college, and then sometimes we lose them at the end of college. But very few take kind of STEM subjects in terms of degree level, and if they do, when they get into the workplace, they look up and they can't see any role models. And we are determined to be part of that change, and move that forward. So there are several categories within the Tech Women 100 Awards. There's the individual, and this is a bit, if any of you are familiar with our Rising Star Awards, we end up with 100 winners. So it isn't by organisation like Rising Stars or profession or anything like that. You can work in tech in any company, in any industry. So that's the individual 100. The next thing we have is a champion category. So these are more senior individuals that can be of any gender, but they're doing something off the side of their desk, or perhaps they sit on committees or boards to propel women in the tech industry. So that's a champion definition. We then have men for gender balance, which I think is obvious. It says what it does on the tin. We're looking for the male advocates who are out there championing gender, pushing women in tech forward. So I'm sure we all know some of them. So that's our men for gender balance category. And then a company. And what we want to see here from a company is tangible impact. So, it's all very well and good. A company says, yeah, we're really investing in our women in tech. I want to know what that investment looks like. What programs are they running? What impact it's had? It's all about impact here. And it could just be a small program. It doesn't necessarily have to span millions and millions of people, but it could be, look, we did this with 15 women. This was the kind of pilot that we did. This is what we implemented. And actually, we've seen a couple of those women progress as a consequence of that. So it doesn't have to be kind of big boil the ocean stuff. We just want to see that it's had an impact. You've thought about it, and it's part of your plan to increase representation of women in tech within your organisations. We then have our Global Achiever. So most of the awards are for the UK. This means that anybody from anywhere all over the globe can nominate for this award. So we're looking for a female individual in the tech industry. Again, any position or any industry or any part of tech, but they obviously must be global. And then finally, the networks, the wonderful ERGs that hold us all together. So if you have a Women in Tech network in your organisation, this is the award for them. So an opportunity for them to talk about some of the initiatives they've done, some of the events, maybe some of the impact that they've had in terms of building that network and growing it so that it supports your women in tech. So those are the core categories. And when you go into the platform, you can select which category it is that you're nominating in. We couldn't do what we do without our sponsors. And, you may have seen across LinkedIn and stuff like that, people pulling back on D&I initiatives, budgets being cut and stuff. But and we've got a few more to add here, but these are the people that power our work. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am, because, it's a hard space at the moment, but they get behind us every single year and they enable us to make these awards happen. So a huge thank you to them. So timeline, where are we now? We are in nominations. So you can nominate up until the 8th of July. Now there's 2 steps if you are nominating someone else. And I think this comes on further on the presentation. You could nominate a colleague, for example. So you go onto the platform, you create your account, you nominate your colleague, you get an email, which probably will go into spam because of your firewall. So there's your first warning. Please do check your spam. You will nominate your colleague. They get an email to say, congratulations, you've been nominated. Your colleague then needs to do their supporting information. And what this does is it gives our judges a little bit more clarification about what they've done and what they've achieved. So your actual initial nomination can just be a paragraph, something compelling that gets that individual into the system. Then we look to them to tell us the rest of the detail, because we want these nominees to really want it. So there's the opportunity to tell the story. Now, if you're self-nominating, and I encourage you to do that, if you don't blow your own trumpet, who will? You only do that process once. So you go in and you self-nominate yourself and you tell your story then and there. Now, with the platform that we've got, you can start to do that as long as the nomination's in, the story part, and again, the supporting information from in a colleague example, they can do that right the way up till 8th of July. So you can start to work on it, you can save it, and you don't actually have to press the button until the 8th. But what we do need is the casting nomination and the supporting information in by the 8th. Or if you're nominating yourself, your completed information in by the 8th. I cannot tell you the amount of emails that we get past our deadline date saying, can you give me another week? the way that the awards are structured in terms of the timeline, those judges know that their packs are coming for that following week. So if we delay too much, it really constricts our judges, which is not fair because they've got lots of nominations to kind of go through. So if we can aim for the 8th, that would be amazing. Our judges then crunch the numbers over the summer. They read all nominations, and then we have a shortlist, which we announce. And then we open something called the public vote. And again, it may come on later on the presentation what that is. The public vote isn't for the 100. The public vote is a separate award. What we don't want the awards to be is a popularity contest. So some of you have got bigger networks than others. Some of you will feel more comfortable about saying you've been nominated or calling for votes than others. So the public vote is an optional award that you can go into if you want to. So if you can imagine, at the end we have the 100 winners, we have the different category winners, champion, network, etc., and we have a public vote winner. So again, if you're shortlisted, you can go in for that, call for votes, and then hopefully one of you will win the public vote award. So that's the only one that we do, but it does not influence our judges' decisions whatsoever. So voting closes for the public vote on the 27th of August, just for the bank holiday. I'm sorry, voting opens just before the bank holiday, and it closes on the 6th of September. We then announce the winners on the 17th of September. So we do that via all of our social channels, on our websites. And then on the 21st of November will be the winners award ceremony. So I believe that's at the QE2 Centre, which is in London. It is a ticketed event. Unfortunately, when we put on these big, large kind of events, especially in London, it costs us a hell of a lot of money. So we do have to charge for tickets. I always say to any winners of our awards, go to your companies first. They're the ones that are going to talk to you on their intranet about how fantastic you are. I'm sure they can afford to pay for your ticket. So that's the first port of call if you win. So we have the winners ceremony, and it doesn't stop there for us, but I'll come on to that in a second. So why should you enter? As somebody that won quite a few awards in my actual corporate career, I can look back now and say that definitely opened up doors of opportunity for me to continue to do the work I was doing within corporate, which was finance and tech, but also to do things externally. It's a conversation opener. It's something that was on my LinkedIn. It led to people reading through my LinkedIn and go, oh, she's won awards. Excuse me, and then obviously approaching me for opportunities. So I think awards are great. I think there's lots of awards out there. It's up to you to choose strategically which ones you think will propel your career. So definitely a platform to tell your story, raise your awareness of your achievements, both internally and externally as well. And I think for me, like when I think back to the first ever award that I won, which was Women in Banking and Finance, it was a Champion for Women award. It basically gave me that platform where I could go and do work with women and probably contributed to the build of We Are the City and We Are Tech Women in subsequent years, because I kind of had that behind me. So I had my niche. This is where I was going to be. For us, again, the role modelling is so important. We don't have enough women in tech. We don't have enough visibility of those women. We love our award winners, whether you're shortlisted or, whether you're just nominated, to actually stand up and be proud. I'm a woman in tech and there's not enough of me out there. Other things, in terms of, again, but we see a lot of it. If you look across LinkedIn, there's lots of people with the Tech Women logo within their profiles. People deem themselves as award-winning X, Y, Z, which we absolutely love. So that's amazing. And again, that role modelling within your firm, I think, is really important as well. We know the companies love to have a whole plethora of award winners as their talent pool. And also internally, I've seen it happen with lots of other Tech Women as well. I see a lot of activity on our WhatsApp group, but they talk about the opportunities that it's opened doors for internally in terms of speaking events, sitting on panels, engaging with grad talent as well to encourage more women into tech, working in schools. So again, so many different opportunities. However, you may feel a little bit uncomfortable about it, and I totally get that. It's nominating yourself for award. Do I then put that onto social media? What if I don't get shortlisted? What if I don't win? It feels like all of a sudden the spotlight's on you, and you may not necessarily be comfortable with that. And again, each to their own. Some people are not, and it's fine. If you put it on out there on your socials, it might feel a little bit braggy, a little bit boasty. I'm going to counter that because I think we need to tell more women's stories. And some people, are comfortable enough to say, do you know what? I nominated me. And I think that's great. But some people want to stay quiet about it. And again, happy either way, whatever works for you and feels authentic. The one that comes up a lot is this imposter syndrome of I haven't done enough. the fact that you're in technology, the fact that you work where you work, the fact that you do your job every day, and I'm sure you do it exceptionally well, believe me, you're more than worthy. So that's the first thing. In terms of have you done enough to enter the awards, you don't know if you don't try. So it's not like you can see other people's nominations. So what I want you to do is tell us your story. And again, I'm going to come on to like the things, the bells and whistles that I look for. But you have done enough. You're a woman in tech. That is enough for us. You know, if you've got a compelling story around other things you've done, even better. If you go to enter the awards and you think, do you know what, I don't think I've done enough this year, then let that be something that you take away and, you know, perhaps something that you get involved with next year to bolster your nomination in future years. So that's why I think you should nominate yourself. But again, it's entirely up to you. So let's get on to the really important stuff. What makes a good nomination? And I think for me, and I can tell when I read a nomination if it's rushed. You know, sometimes I judge awards and there's a couple of questions in there and people have just given 2-line answers. And I'm not against 2-line answers if they're impactful and they give me the information that we need. But sometimes it just looks like someone's not put enough effort into it. So what I'm looking for when I read nominations, and I know my judges are the same on Tech Women and Rising Stars, is we want to read your story. I want to read through about you, what drove you to create what you did or what you achieved, how you got into tech, what you've done since, you know, any adversity that you've overcome. You know, I want to hear those achievements, you know, but again, the context around those achievements. So, you know, we've had nominations in before where most of the form is taken out of bullet points of every single course that an individual has been on. And that's great, but we can summarize that in a paragraph and use the other space for more impactful statements. So again, we restrict you on some of our questions to stop you telling us chapter and verse. It makes you a lot more succinct and it makes it a lot more easier for the judges to read as well. One of the things I'm always looking for, and maybe because I'm a pay it forward kind of girl, I like to see how you've helped others. So to me, that is the very essence of a Tech Women 100 or a Rising Star or Pioneer 100 or 520 or any one of our kind of awards. These are individuals that pay it forward and look for opportunities where they can help others, influence others, give people a hand up. So that again is something really important to include. I talk about detail of cause and effect. And I think, again, I mentioned this a bit later on. Sometimes when you read a statement, and again, this isn't being rude, but it's something that I learned very early on in my career. My boss used to teach me to say, so what? In other words, what is that sentence telling me? You know, where did it impact me? So sometimes when you read a sentence that you've written, you go, okay, so what? And what then you apply is something what I call cause and effect. So for example, you've delivered a volunteering program to a local school, and that's what you've told us. But how about you've delivered a program within a local school that impacted 30 children, that involved several other partners? All of a sudden, the gravity of your initial statement has gone to a much bigger place because you've added that cause and effect. I did this, and this was the outcome. So think about that in everything you write. Have I added the cause and effect of my actions and what I've done? Because sometimes that's the bit that's missing. We read something and we go, that sounds amazing. Like how many kids are in the classroom? And again, these numbers don't have to be big. You could have impacted 2 or 3 kids, and those 2 or 3 kids were absolutely, you know, amazed by what you did. It steered their thinking in terms of what they want to do or stuff like that. So it isn't necessarily always about big numbers, but it's about how you have impacted. So context, numbers, breadth, scope, you know, what is your next plan? You know, did you do this particular program in a school and now you want to roll it out to other schools? Tell us what comes next. Innovation is always good. So for example, I had this thing that I needed to do. I put it in, could be a system implementation, could be anything like that. And those things are exciting. And I hit this particular brick wall, and this is how I overcome that brick wall. So show us where you've lent yourself to like innovative thinking and stuff like that. And as I said, self-nominations are awesome. And the reason why I always say self-nominations are awesome is because no one tells your story like you do. And we can tell the difference between a nomination that's been written by corporate comms, you know, and the way that they tell a story, to someone that's telling us a story that's from their heart, that has lived and breathed that experience. It just comes through in your writing. And for me, I think the most impactful nomination is one where I, as the reader, feel connected to the person's nomination that I'm reading about. So sometimes it's easier, I've found, and again, when I've done nominations for others, to just do, you know, I hate the word, like just there is a word that I would use for it, but I don't like the word, but it's like called like a word vomit, where you just literally go onto a Word document and you just write your story and you just keep writing, you don't back edit, and then you can kind of edit from that. And then when you're ready, perhaps you can go into the platform. As much as I have every faith in our platform, it's wonderful and it works, I would always advise you to copy your work and just put it into a Word document. Another reason for doing that, you may want to use the same story for different awards, and then that way you have like a master copy that you can continue to refine. So again, I trust our platform, but that's just another tip, because then you can, as I say, use it again. It'd be amazing. So what are our judges looking for? Obviously that you meet that criteria. If we get a nomination that says, you know, I'm running a £4 billion P&L and I've got 100 staff, straight away what we would do is come back to you and say, should you be in the champions category? You know, so someone that's slightly more senior. That you spent time on that nomination, and again, that you've got all the supporting information in it. And these little things do matter, you know, running it through spell check, making sure that it's laid out properly, you know, it's quite easy to read. And again, I know you're within the confines of boxes. I'm not asking for a dissertation level nomination, but again, it just shows that you're kind of paying attention to it as well. The impact's there, the achievements are there, the innovation's there, the kind of ability to see past the problem and work out a way to create it. Delivering initiatives, obviously paying it forward is really, really important. Defying the odds. And also one for me is where people have taken a few risks. And do you know what? Maybe it didn't work out and you've learned from it. Again, absolutely fine, all part of learning. So you may want to say, you know, you decided to go that way, even though the odds were stacked against you, but this was the outcome. And from the outcome, this was the impact. So it's that outcome and that impact that we're looking for. And probably most awards are. So the TW100 platforms, you can get to it from wearetechwomen.com. You go in, you create an account, you choose which category that you're nominating in, whether you're nominating yourself or someone else. Submit it when you're ready. You'll get an email. Again, please do check those junk folders. They're the bane of our lives. And then again, there's a step 2, not required for self-nomination. So making sure if you've nominated someone else and they know about it, make sure they've got that nomination, because it could be sitting in their spam. And we've had that before. We get right to the deadline day, someone's been nominated, and then they're really up against it to fill in that information before we close. So save as you go, I've mentioned that earlier on, and then obviously the review and submit, and then we've got it. Now, once we've got it, once it goes over to the judges and nothing we can change, should you be shortlisted, what we do is whatever bio that you've given us, that is what we publish, and that's what you agree to on the website. So we do get people come back that, you know, when they've been shortlisted, say, oh, I didn't mean to say that, can I amend that? And that's fine. My team are kind of used to it, but we don't want to change it too much, because that is the information that the judges have used to judge you. So if you've changed companies, you've changed roles, all of that kind of stuff is fine, or you want to swap out your picture, we're all good with that. But fundamentally, changing the nomination too much is not something we'd like you to do. But the odd detail is fine. So important reminders for you: do not underplay your achievements. They may be small things to you, but they may be big things to our judges. There's certainly big things out there in the world of tech where people are seeking role models and stories of women that have gone on to achieve amazing things. Don't underplay them. Sometimes when you're writing your nomination, there'll be a tendency to play it down. You know, I'm asking you not to play it down. If you feel more comfortable, write it in the third person as if you're writing about someone else. I always personally find that easier rather than the I, because it always makes you think, oh, am I being a bit boasty? You're not being boasty at all. Make sure that nomination exudes the confidence and it jumps out of the page. Show us your personality. That's what I'm asking you. Again, I've touched on it earlier on. Avoid listing every single certification. Try and summarize them up. I'm a multi-qualified, maybe picking out the 1 or 2 that really kind of, signify where you are in your career. Impact, again, I know I'm labouring the point, but it's really important. I personally think you should get someone to have a read through, because they may notice something that you don't, or they may want to put in different words that describe you. So I always think it's good bouncing it off of someone else before you actually hit the send button. We've talked about the bio, getting the headshot right. Again, I know people want to swap them out and stuff like that. We can always kind of do that at the end, but not too many changes. Check your spam, keep going on about that one. And basically you have until the 8th of July to submit your nominations and supporting information. So I'm going to try and take any questions that we can. I don't know in this call if I can unmute you all the way that it's been set up, but I think you can all write in the chat. So if anyone's got any questions, you want to write them in the chat and then I can have a look and I can answer them. So now is your opportunity. Thank you very much. I just want you all to nominate yourselves, basically. I'll be a very happy lady. The more we can shine a spotlight on women in tech, the better. Anyone got any questions, or have I done my job well? Any questions at all? Right, so first question from Charlotte, is the 8th of July the deadline for the initial nomination and then the nominee to supply it after? No, both have got to be in. That's why I think it's really important that you nominate as early as you can, because then you're in the system. So we need that supporting information in by the 8th. So say, for example, when we opened in June, you would have done the nomination, you're in the system, you've got your log on and you can start to work on it. So that by the 8th, we've got everything we need. I hope that answers that one. Good. So obviously spread the word. I always think if you're going to nominate yourself, it would be fabulous to nominate others and pay that forward. So could you please explain the breakdown, separation of the 100 and the different categories? So I did that earlier on, but just so that you know again, the initial awards, Tech Women 100, are just for 100 individuals. Doesn't matter what industry you're working in, as long as you're in a tech role, that you qualify as being in the middle, kind of that middle layer of your career. That is the 100, that is the individual. You would only nominate for the other categories if, for example, you are a company, you are a network or a Women in Tech ERG, you are a senior individual, i.e. man or woman, that is running a large P&L, that perhaps they've got, responsibility for big teams. So they're more senior, they're kind of DMD level above. So that's the champion. And then men for gender balance, can be anyone. It could be anyone as long as they're obviously a male ally. So they're the different categories. You can definitely enter more than one category if you think that you qualify. I wouldn't say that you would qualify as a 100 and a champion, because obviously there's a bit of a conflict there. You would have a global, so you wouldn't necessarily go into the 100, but you could nominate individuals within the individual category and then still nominate for company, still nominate for network of the year. So you could do that. So let me just get to the rest of this question. What sort of evidence is good to add to the nominations? I think, just as I say, it forms part of your story, as the evidence of what it is that you've done. What is the outcome? And what is it that you've done? That maybe, the judges don't tend to, unless we had a kind of tie-break decision, they may go off and look on socials or LinkedIn or anything like that if they had a question about something that you've necessarily delivered. But I think, in terms of evidence of what you've done, we're trusting you to give us the evidence and tell us your story with the component parts in it. Where do you write your bio in the profile? It is on when you first go in and nominate. When you first do the nomination, it will ask you, say, for example, if I was doing a self-nomination, there is a bio piece that basically is the first question that asks you to tell us about yourself. So that's the one that we're going to publish. So you can play around with it, make sure that you've got it right, the impact is there and everything like that. But the moment if you get shortlisted, we're going to publish that bio. So it's important that it's factually correct and that you're happy with it to be out there in the public domain. Do nominees who nominate them. We've got two options. We've got an option when you nominate someone else that says you want to remain anonymous, in which case we won't tell them. You have our word on that. And then there's an option to say that you don't mind them knowing. So if they ask, we will tell them, but only if you tick that box that you're happy for us to tell your nominees that you've nominated them. When you say bio will be shared, do you mean the answer? No, not your entire nomination. So all that will be shared is your initial bio. This is a synopsis about you. So the rest of the stuff that you put into those other questions will only be seen by our judges. So we don't publish your whole nomination. No, definitely not. Because sometimes you share very personal things within there that we would no way kind of publish on the website. But the bio is the important piece. That's the bit that we'll publish. Also, I should have mentioned, once you've gone into the process, if you don't get shortlisted, we delete your data. The same goes with the after you've won, we delete the data from there. We keep hold of you again through different things. So one of the things that I forgot to mention, which is a really important fundamental part of what we do, is we have a relationship with Durham University. So when you win one of our awards, there's a WhatsApp chat group, so you can kind of meet everyone, because the awards night, no one really gets a chance to chat. We have what we call 1 to 10 calls. So our sponsors get on a call, I get on a call with you, and I get to know you really well in groups of 10. Everyone gets to tell a bit of their stories, who they are, and that's how we bring you together as a community. So then we've got the WhatsApp group. We have the day at Durham, where all of the winners will go down to Durham. They hang out with Dr. Sue Black. They hang out with the professors. We did leadership robotics last time. Unfortunately, I had COVID, so I couldn't go, but everyone was sending me pictures and I was watching it on screen, and that's amazing. You come to our events, you get virtual tickets for all of our events, all the ones that I spoke about last year. You'll get virtual tickets. We're also your phone a friend. You need any advice or anything like that, you can come to us and we'll answer all sorts of questions. Where can I go for this? Where can I go for that? Sometimes we hear of our winners being made redundant, and we'll always do our best to kind of connect you to clients that are looking to rehire kind of women in tech and stuff. So we're kind of there for life. We're not disappearing anywhere, and you become part of a wider family. So that's that piece. So I don't think there are any other questions. And again, if you get off the call and you think of something and, oh, I should have asked that, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn and just send me a message through that as well. So I hope that I've kept you long enough. Here you go. I'm giving you half an hour back. I put in an hour just in case we needed it and there was lots of questions. But again, thank you to all of you for being role models already in our industry. You don't need any award to tell you that. And we need more of you. And please go out there and own your role model status so that we can encourage more girls and more young women into technology. And I hope to read your nomination at some point. I don't judge, by the way, don't judge my own awards, but I hope to read your nomination as they come in. And thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Take care.